Your competitors just spend millions building you a list of thousands of qualified leads. They ran the ads, they built the audience, they attracted people who already pay for what you sell, and they handed it to you. You just haven't collected it yet. They're followers, they're commenters, companies hiring for their exact tech stack, all extractable, all hungry for alternatives. This strategy helped a client collect over $600K in cash and get acquired with millions in pending potential LTV. And I'm about to show you the 3 hidden ways we did it. Just a quick note here, this is going to be an extremely dense video. Therefore, I've left 2 resources below that are going to walk you through step-by-step on how to do this as well, so that you have sort of a companion that you can plug into AI to get you through this process and capturing customers from your competitors. So the first thing that I want to start with is that there are issues with traditional prospecting, especially when you're just getting started, and especially if you have an established market, not a new market. So what do competitors do? Competitors give you an opportunity to capture people that are engaging with their stuff so you can produce lists of warm leads. The purpose of this video is to be able to actually position your product instead of being ground up positioning where you have to be extremely educational and you're not able to make any assumptions about what this prospect already knows. This lets you know the maturity of the audience you're targeting, which informs your copy effectively. Like I said, below this video, you'll be able to grab resources on how to go through this process, figuring out your competitors, targeting them, as well as a few other types of campaigns, such as towards integration partners that can help you hit the ground running. What this does is lets you not spray and pray. It lets you avoid ads that maybe don't target the right people, or maybe you get weird conversions out of and have huge funnels that you need to set up and process them through with tons of spend, and lets you hit the ground running with testing your market and figuring out who to sell to. As we get started with this, the first way that you can grab followers is through following.co. Following.co is the cheapest, fastest way to grab company followers. This website is super simple to use, and I'll walk you through it right now. When you go to Following.co, you're going to have to sign up for an account, obviously. After you sign up, you'll be greeted with a page, an admin dashboard or initial dashboard. I happen to have an admin account because this is my friend's company. Now, I don't get any incentive for you signing up, to be clear, but as you go through, you'll be able to place your orders for various things, and you'll be able to see a dashboard of orders that you've already done. As you go through this dashboard, click on LinkedIn followers. This will allow you to scrape the followers of any LinkedIn company. That means that you can scrape the followers of people that have active interest in your competitors. All you have to do is grab your LinkedIn company page. In this case, I said, Zoom info. People pay a ton of money for Zoom info. With all that money, what they can do is, or I can do, is I can target the fact that they're just getting a software, not a done-for-you system for 10, 15, up to $50,000 a year, when they could be paying an end-to-end agency to both get this data and deliver on it, right? Execute, integrate into their systems, automate outbound, so on and so forth. Once you pop in a URL, you click check count and you get a follower count. From there, you can choose the number of credits that you would like to apply. If we come back to this page here, you can see that it has an average delivery time. This is often at around 26 hours or less. Right now, it's a bit higher. And below that, you'll see the simple pricing, which you're getting thousands of leads for incredibly cheap. Basically a cup of coffee. Now, what do you want to do with those leads once you get them? Well, there's going to be a lot of titles that just don't make sense. So instead of wasting your time on those titles, which, depends on how you go about it, but instead of wasting time on those titles, you can pop them into Claude Code and just ask it to clean it up to only go after your priority titles. It'll be able to do this in a few minutes, literally just a quick back and forth with it, give it your persona, basically. The second thing you can do with this information is pop it into something like Apollo, Prospeo, or if you'd like, AI Arc. I did an entire video on AI Arc. I think it's quickly becoming a premier database and has some of the best pricing around. Once you pop it in there, you can enrich those contacts for the priority contacts, extract the emails, and prep yourself for a campaign. But what do you do with that campaign? How do you actually make a message that converts? The important thing to remember is that the message is God. Every data source, every little thing that you do for your campaigns is all revolving around the message. Whether it's the source you use, the data points you enrich, the title you target, or even if they run ads or not. Everything is simply in service to the message. So when you send this message, there's a few key principles that I want you to have. And by the way, you can screenshot this to create your competitor battle cards and figure out how to actually target your competitors. But again, there will be a resource below covering all of this. Now, when you go about targeting competitor customers or potential competitor customers, you need to use that advantage for yourself. You need to draw a line in the sand between what your competitor does and what you do. And then you need to prey on those things that they're weak at that you're strong at. From there, you don't want to mention the things that they're weak at. And I'll give you an example. If you were ClickUp and you were targeting Jira users, ClickUp might say something like, ever went to set up a project that needs a clear flow for people, mermaid diagram, normal diagram, whatever, and then have to go over to Miro and mess around with trying to integrate into Jira and set up all those permissions and blah, 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 blah. What if the next time you set up project type, you could immediately generate a workflow based on your description so everyone can visually see what's supposed to happen? That's the type of message you want to send to a competitor. You get to basically hit the ground running. You get to basically make a bunch of assumptions and diagnose the maturity of your audience based on all of that. To get started, make a competitor battle card for all of your competitors. Pop this into Claude Code or the preferred AI tool of your choice, and it will actually put together a comparative analysis for you so you can pick and choose the main pain points that you can prey on, again, without mentioning who they're using. Because times change. They may have used something they may not now. But one thing that you can be sure of is as a result of them following this page, they have extreme awareness over the tools that you sell, which helps you jump the line in the terms of the type of messaging that you deliver on. And you can even jump straight into things like lead magnets or things like free intro offers, where maybe you handle the entire setup of their workspace in a concierge manner for whatever use case they have. Now, this can be applied to every single methodology we're going to be discussing in this video today. So what's the second way to go about targeting competitor followers? Well, one of the cool things you can do for targeting competitor followers is social engagement extraction. So what does that look like? Well, you can use tools like Trigify, where you can start monitoring your competitors' LinkedIn profiles. Now, I would recommend monitoring people, not companies for the most part, but with a quick AI search, you can surface both influencers and competitors that will tell you people that are either aware of your solution or actively using a competitor solution or thinking about using a competitor solution. You can monitor this daily and immediately outreach in an automated manner using tools like Clay and some neat little webhooks, which are just tools that let you monitor for events. What's an event? Someone makes a post, that post gets scraped, you extract those engagers, you filter them to make sure they're the right ones, and then all of a sudden out the other end, you have everything you need to engage with that user as well as the context of what they engaged with. Trigify, the founder of this, actually has a few playbooks that you can readily copy for use cases and on their blog that I would highly recommend to walk you through the process of engaging with this. But again, I wouldn't recommend being like, I noticed, I saw you engage with a competitor, because that type of language is actually what makes these types of things a race to the bottom. What do I mean by a race to the bottom? Well, if everyone monitors this person and they reach out to them and they all say, I saw, I noticed, you all of a sudden have a message that is noise, not signal. You want to be the signal from this noise. So focus on relevant pain points. Focus on things the post says that helps inform the way you can engage with that person. And then when engaging with competitors, focus on the competitor product the same way we went through with the Message is God framework. There are other ways you can do this though. Internally, we have a LinkedIn engagement monitoring system that we've built out. This helps us pull posts every single day, cache all of the users so we have a database of LinkedIn profiles, and then actively be able to webhook this wherever we want and create little libraries of the types of people engaging over time with different types of content creators. This is just a system that uses a mixture of Apify actors, tools like Lead Magic, so on and so forth, in order to be able to enrich the right people to contact. And it's important to note, you don't have to use these systems for cold email. This applies to LinkedIn, and it can even apply to ads if you can get personal emails at the other end and apply them to your meta ads library to create audiences. So why this way? This is just a bit cheaper than Trigify. It's a bit more reliable. It's easier to query the data over time, whereas Trigify is a bit of its own kind of black box. Not that we don't use it still, but we're slowly phasing it out in exchange for our own tools. That said, Trigify does have things like keyword monitoring that could help you monitor people actually talking about your competitors on things like LinkedIn. You can also use tools like Octoparse for this, or OctoLens. Why would you want to do this? Well, your competitors making posts are another warm audience for you. Once you have that warm audience, you're going to follow the same steps. You're going to go through the process of filtering out competitors. You can automate this through webhooks into Clay. You can automate the process of diagnosing whether or not, a certain competitor is good for you, so on and so forth. What I'm going to do is actually give away our entire workflow for this below. All you'll have to do is give a work email and a little bit of information about yourself, and you'll get signed up for our awesome newsletter where we do massive giveaways. Like recently, we gave away an 8.5 million record lead database of companies, investors, all segmented out for people. So what will this do? It'll give you the entire GitHub for setting this up internally for yourself so you can begin monitoring LinkedIn posts. That entire GitHub will include the setup of doing it locally from Claude Code if you don't want to set up your own database, as well as having your own platform here that you can interact with if you would prefer to do that and you like having a UI. Plus, I'll walk you through how to configure your Supabase to cache all of this information. And I'll even give you a Clay template for processing this data into something usable. What's the next way that we can go about doing this? As we go down these processes, it gets kind of increasingly challenging, but I'm also going to give you an entire toolkit for method 3, which is job tech stacks. So if you just go to a company's website, let's go to, I don't know, coldiq.com. That's one of the biggest competitors in my space, and the founder's pretty freaking awesome at content. So I think a lot of people would know this person. When you go to a website, what happens is if you press F12, there's a bunch of different network requests that are happening. And I'll show you what I mean, Control R. And so if we reload the website and we move this table ID, we can actually see all of the things that are getting loaded on here. And we can actually see here Webflow, right? So they are using Webflow. And if I scroll down and I go to FB events, I can see that they're actually tracking me, right? They're tracking to see if I'm an FB user and so on and so forth. And so what tech lookup tools like BuiltWith do is they're only really capable of checking the technology that is active on the page. And so you can actually do this by selecting elements on the page as well and really see, like what type of video player is he using, Wistia, and so on and so forth. As you scroll through this, it'll actually highlight different elements as well. And this is how you can kind of see tech stacks. But there's a better way. Because not all technology actually exists on websites, you're going to want to actually pull these things from scraping jobs. So how do you do it? Well, inside Clay, you can find jobs and enrich the descriptions for free and use AI to identify who's actively engaging with those jobs. But it gets a little bit more complicated than that. So let me walk you through it. We have this attack plan here that basically walks through our step-by-step system for actually going through and processing job data. What it does is it stages the initial data. It identifies and pushes all the companies to a different table. Based on those companies, we identify which ones are hiring companies and create a hiring company's cache. This means that we can automatically exclude this cache from future lookups of job posts to make sure that we don't end up enriching hiring and staffing companies because we don't want them. From there, we do a lookup from the staging table to all the companies that are in the cache to exclude them from our workflow. And then what we do is we look up all the companies that end up being qualified with a single company lookup. All of the job descriptions that are not hiring companies, are hiring companies, then get checked to see which of these companies is hiring on behalf of another company, and we extract the website of that company. From there, we add the qualified companies from the JD to a separate table. So we have qualified companies that are hiring from themselves and qualified companies that are being hired for, right, on behalf of. We take all of that, and when we do our initial lookup, we actually do lookups by technologies in the description or roles that would utilize the technologies we care about, right, within the confines of their job. And from there, we can create a lookalike list of competitors once again. In this case, we want people that were actively using Temporal, PyTorch, as well as TensorFlow. And we got a pretty substantial table of around 32,000 people and 12,000 total companies that use these tools that are qualified and are ICP. It's not a small, insignificant number. The other cool thing is that with these job descriptions, you can also get of what they're actually using these tools for, which means that you can speak to use cases. I personally believe that this is, next to competitor followers, the best way to get bulk data of people that are actively engaging with your competitors. In this case, you end up mixing competitors a bit more in order to get the right amount of data. With the competitor followers, you get a little bit more of an active read on who has grounded interest in what's going on with your competitors. I'm going to give away this entire table framework as well. You can grab it below. Basically, I'm going to give away the whole 9 yards on how we run competitor campaigns, as well as the playbook on how to write copy around these things. And you can grab all that below. If you have questions about how these things work, please let me know. Now, there's still a massively important thing that I need to share shortly after this around what's going to make these campaigns most effective, okay? And it applies to all three of these methodologies. But first, I just want to say the other really attractive thing about job listing tech stack targeting is that you're going after companies that are actively growing, and you can automate this through tools like Appify. On the back end, once you figure out a campaign that works with Clay, you can make it automated and expand the total reach of it by adding platforms outside of LinkedIn in order to capture this data, ingest it, and have a highly, highly relevant motion where you have all the data to make sure your message is focused on exactly the outcomes they want towards growing companies. But what's even more important to that is making sure that you have a social footprint. If your competitor is way more active online, if they have better resources, if they have open source tools, if their founder is a huge KOL, you're gonna have to do a lot of work to make sure that your LinkedIn profile, your company LinkedIn profile, your company website, and your social footprint is massively positive. For instance, right now, I have a problem of when people search up Mitchell Keller, they're not going to see me. Unfortunately, they're going to see a Facebook or a baseball player all the way down until here when you find my LinkedIn profile. And that sucks. Maybe I should change my name at the end of the day here. But you really want to make sure that all of these searches, if they search up your company after they see a message, that they find a very positive social footprint, whether that's your YouTube, whether that's free resources, whether that's like Cold IQ over here that has these awesome tools. You want to make sure that when they look you up, you are a trustworthy source, or you're going to have a really hard time winning. To be honest, when I work with clients that are actively posting content, we can see up to 2 times the performance on campaigns. And the reason for that is that whenever someone receives an email, the first thing they do is go to your website if they're interested. And if your website sucks and you don't have a good VSL, or you don't have anything explaining your outcomes, value propositions, etc., they're just not going to be interested. An email is meant to generate curiosity and belief, enough to get them to take action. Not everyone is going to assume the best action for them is to reply immediately. They're going to check your website. When we launch campaigns, typically our clients can see hundreds, if not thousands, depending on the scale. I would say roughly 5% of all emails we send end up having the person visit the website. So if your social footprint just isn't quite there, this isn't going to be as effective for you. So just remember that content is a multiplier for everything. The big thing I want you to take away from this system is that all three of these are reliable means. Following.co is definitely the easiest. Job listings are definitely the most complex, but you're going to get playbooks below, and please utilize them to help walk yourself through this system. If you want this installed into your business and run for you with someone that's going to help you define and break down your entire stealth offer, the one your competitors didn't even know they can make, and base it off all of your competitors as well as your cold audiences so you can turn strangers into customers, book a 90-day offer sprint assessment below, where we'll define whether or not you have an offer that's worth testing and if cold email could be right for you in a done-for-you manner. If you need another video to watch, I would recommend checking out our video on AI Arc, as well as some of our recent videos on how to build out your go-to-market intelligence. Once you have proper go-to-market intelligence, these systems will begin to write themselves. If not, please check out the resources below, join my newsletter to get more up-to-date information on how to turn strangers into customers. Take care.